Hello, everybody. I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm the host of NPR's Ask Me Another, and also the host of this amazing panel where we have some incredible people here who have worked with Audible and Broadway video, and we are going to talk about the challenges and the amazing creative process of taking comedy and translating it to the audio landscape. We have amazing panelists here, and we're just going to go through one by one and have them introduce themselves and say where they work. Thank you On Air Fest for putting this together, and then we'll get into some questions. So if you guys just want to go through and say your name and what your job is.
Sure, I'll start.
Okay, I'll point to you. I know. Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Britta.
Hi, my name's Britta von Schoeler, and I'm the president of Broadway Video Enterprises. And we are Lorne Michaels' company and the producers of Saturday Night Live, The Tonight Show, and many, many other TV shows and movies, and now with Mean Girls, Broadway shows, etc. And have over the past couple of years had the great fortune of working with Audible to explore the audio space.
Hi, I'm Mark Valdez. I'm a producer of Broadway Video, and I've been behind titles such as 64th Man, Holiday Greetings from Sugar and Booze, and the upcoming hit job and Hot White Heist that will be released later this summer.
I can go next. Hi, I'm Achilles Stamatelaky. I'm a writer-director for Broadway Video, and I just was a co-writer and director for the upcoming hit job starring Keke Palmer and Pete Davidson.
Rachel Ghiazza, and I oversee content at Audible, and super excited to be here. Broadway Video is such an amazing partner, and so this is going to be a super fun session. Thanks for having us.
Great. So, okay, let's just dive in talking about taking comedy that we all know and enjoy either in a live space or a TV, a visual space, and bringing it into a space that is 100% audio. Because, everyone loves a pratfall or a funny hat or a good mug to the camera. But visual comedy is a huge part of what comics and actors do on stage and TV. But how do you account? How do you write a joke knowing that no one's going to see it?
I can answer that. I think part of it is we are relying a little bit more on the verbal, so the lines of dialogue to carry the comedy. So there's a little bit more of kind of crafting the joke, but actually it's a little bit less technical than it sounds. So we're relying a little bit more on the dialogue, but we're also playing around with some of the more kind of technical elements of the medium, like sound design and the sound effects and the fun elements of the medium. In this recent production we had for Hit Job, we had something called literally like an efforts list that we would take kind of different takes of the actors doing grunts and uhs and laughs and all those different things that you aren't necessarily writing into the script, but what we could use it in the edit to kind of punch up specific lines and finesse certain moments. So you're writing it with that in mind, where we're going to have those elements later on in the production, where you might not necessarily have those things when you're shooting a TV show or writing a feature or something like that. And I think the other thing too is you're writing the episode or the series, but you're also just trusting the actors to come in and deliver a performance that is colorful and breathes life into those lines. So there is the idea of writing for the medium specifically, but then also trusting the actors to kind of deliver their performances after that.
And I imagine too that there's like a pacing issue, right? I think of specific with live. When you say a joke, you have a response that kind of guides your pacing. But here your relationship with the audience, instead of being like a mass amount of people, even people, even I think when shooting TV, you think about this, is a very intimate relationship. It is like it's basically one to one in this. So do you think about the comedy through that particular relationship?
Yeah, it's almost like um, you're listening to a song, right? Like songs really affect us because it is so like intimate, right? And I think part of when it comes to the writing part of it, you are using some of the stuff that is like outside of the stuff that you're writing, meaning like the pauses in between the lines, the spaces, that you're giving the actors a chance to kind of fill in, or that we, can kind of edit and place in the, in the piece. But yeah, timing is a huge part of it, and often you have that in mind when you're writing a script, and then sometimes you discover that through the process of producing this, the audio series.
And I think sometimes with audio, you have to leave a little bit more time in between things to let people's brain catch up. Because I think when we're so used to experiencing entertainment with our eyes as well, which provides so much information. So I think the pacing is extra important when you think about audio. And of course, the sound effects, as Achilles referenced to.
I think that's a really interesting thing you say about the brain having to catch up. Like the visual can add so much that you have to also, I think, be a little bit more simple. Like use as many provocative and when you're writing, and I guess I throw this back to both Mark and Achilles. Like when you're writing, you have to be efficient with your language in a different way with your jokes and the comedy.
Right. I think when we, are in the scripting phase and we're giving notes and building things out, we try to, focus on dialogue between less characters, or, simplify things in a way that feels organic to the story, but also still lends itself to comedy. So
Yeah.
whether that is having, a smaller cast between scenes, or, breaking it up in that way is really helpful for us to, tell the story.
Yeah.
And in post,
And
when we're going through,
no,
we
go
should
ahead.
tell the audience there's a strange delay, so we're not actually as awkward in real life as we are now. But what I was going to say is when we're in post, we listen on earphones, we listen in tight environments, which kind of assimilate what a car experience might be like, knowing that that's how Audible and other audio platforms are often consumed, because you really have to consider what it's like to have like all of that sound so close to your ears.
Yeah. No, that's good. That is I feel like, sometimes when you hear live, especially live stuff that's just been translated straight to an audio platform, sometimes it can be like a little jarring. So that's what everyone should do. Just listen in a closet. Matter of fact, most of us are working out of our closets right now. Rachel, and then anyone else that wants to hear this, speaking of working out of closets, and for many comics who have done stuff online, having no feedback, it has been an intense year. And I like to think that comedians have kind of become essential workers during this time. I know that a lot of people have craved some sort of escapism with comedy. What kind of comedy do you think the listeners are craving right
now? That's a great question. It's been really interesting to listen to or see the listening patterns during this time. Generally people are listening more, which is great and probably not surprising, as you're looking for ways to, be away from the screen, maybe do other parts of your life. I started gardening for the first time, so things like that. And of course, I think a big thing that we were seeing is people looking to escape and maybe leave the heaviness of the moment, and really wanting to have that moment to just have a good laugh or just be somewhere different. So we saw things that brought you to different worlds and gave you a moment to just kind of be there, perform super well. And, there are so many different ways we're connecting right now. I think this was a really great opportunity for someone to just remember, the happy parts or the funny parts, just let that good laugh or good moment go out. So certainly we saw a lot of good uptick on people escaping and people needing that, comedic break.
So when you say, go ahead.
I was going to talk what you said about, comics getting feedback and the way that impacts our production process too. We try to, we have huge casts of, I think there are 42 different actors who are in Hit Job. And we produced this in August and September. So right in the middle of the pandemic. And so when we produce these multicast projects, we try to get as many actors to record at the same time so it feels organic and the conversations flow naturally and they have something to react to against each other. So it was an interesting puzzle of, having some people in the studio patching in somebody from LA in their closet and patching somebody in LA that was willing to come to a studio. So we try to make that a priority when we're recording our projects. You're right, it's a lot of feedback and bouncing off of each other.
So then would you, in the future, you're like, I can't wait to get everyone back in the same studio again so we can have this seamless process? Or are you like, but this was a real pain to, puzzle together, but the talent we could get with everyone doing it out of their home.
Right. I think it'll be a mix moving forward because, it did expand the, opportunities of people we were able to get in, whether, doing people on the weekends while they were off of shooting something else. But ideally, we'll be all in the same place as much as possible. But it has definitely made us flex that muscle.
But pre-pandemic, we used to try to orient our cast for the most part around one of the coasts. So if we had a New York-based star, we would try to line up the rest of the cast around them in New York. And obviously we had to get really creative during the pandemic. And we ended up casting people all over the world to kind of work independently for the most part or through an ISDN line. And I think it worked well enough. It's definitely not always cheap or easy to do it that way. But I think at least we have that experience and we know we can have success in recording wherever anybody is. So for us, having Audible over this last year, having our Audible productions, I should say, was like a major godsend. It was able to keep us working and keep us sane. And we were just with Pete Davidson earlier this week, name drop. And he was saying that he's always going to love Hit Job because it was the first time he worked during the pandemic, which is, I think for us, it was something to keep us going that was really needed.
Yeah. And, while we are talking about this, what is the relationship like between Audible and Broadway video? Like, for those of people watching who don't really know how these two bodies work together, how do you all work together?
Rachel, you want to start?
Yeah.
Too nice in case you're going to say something mean about us.
Right into my notes. No, it's funny. I think sometimes you have different groups that you work with, and then of course you have groups that you partner with. And for us, Broadway Video is a true partner. We've been doing a lot of experimenting in the audio space. And I feel like Broadway Video is really eager to do the same. So we've done a lot of learning and growing and building together, which I think really creates a much stronger foundation. So the way that our relationship is set up, it really allows us to, create multiple things together, test certain things, try certain things. And to me, that's really exciting, right? Because we get a chance to, be more, I think, risky in some ways. And that obviously makes better creativity and better art. And then you end up with kind of more of a shorthand together, right? Like, you know each other, you know the people, you kind of work together, and it just makes it easier to do things back and forth. And then, of course, always partners that we love seeing and love doing things with, which, again, just opens things up for you to have a much easier working relationship. I was looking for the number of things we've done at this point, and I have a list of things we've already completed and things that we're doing, but we have quite a few projects together, and so we've really cut our teeth, and I think we just keep getting even more exciting in what we're producing and making.
Yes, I would echo that. It's been a really wonderful partnership. Oops, sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's been a really wonderful partnership. And when we started talking to Audible back maybe 3 years ago, and I think they were the first people in the business wanting to make a big push into audio narrative series, television for your ears, which is what, we were so excited when they brought the idea to us. But they enticed us at that point by saying, like, this is a real creative playground, and you can let your creatives have a lot of latitude and really be able to do things without being micromanaged in a way that you can't necessarily on TV. So it was immediately exciting for us to get into the relationship because of that. And they really have maintained that attitude where we work really wonderfully together and we are able to take risks, and they're really supportive of our projects and put great marketing behind them. So far, so good. And I think we have like 16 projects either done or in some form of production right now.
Yeah, I saw the number and I was like, oh, maybe that's a typo.
Wow, that's a lot to be working on all at the same time. That's incredible.
But
we are starving for content out here.
Sorry. I was going to say they're all fresh and different, which is also super exciting. That's one element I really, really love. Like, every project is so different that if you're a big fan of one, you'll certainly like the other. But it's not, a formula, same thing again and again and again. I think that's what makes the whole slate super exciting.
For instance, we just recently released a drama production that we actually produced in conjunction with James Patterson, the novelist, and it is right now, I think, #1 on Audible. Is that true?
Yeah, it's the #1 in our Plus catalog. People are enjoying it very much. I just got the latest stats, and it just keeps going and going and going. So we're doing a lot of really fun things together, which again just makes it a lot easier for the partnership, because we're able to, hey, let's try this project. Can you come in and help us produce this project? So it really lets us build on what we've started.
I'm leaving bigger pauses. So are you both coming to the table with different projects that you want to create? Is that sort of how the pipeline is going? Broadway Video, you're coming and going like, here's something that we're interested in, and Audible is going, here's something we're interested in, and then kind of pooling the resources together?
For the most part. Yep, I'm sorry.
I've been using a restaurant analogy a lot recently, so please, I apologize. A lot of it is really us coming and saying, hey, we would like to order something sort of like this, or here's what we think, our customers have really liked. But we really, turn it over to the chefs and the experts to help figure out like what that is.
And on our development side, we have a huge, what I call a family of talent spawning from SNL, which has obviously been in production for a gazillion years now. So we have dozens and dozens of writers and producers who we've worked with over the decades. And they're coming to us with ideas. We're helping them to develop them specifically for audio. And then we pitch them to Audible and they're like, yes, no, yes, no. So that's on our side, that's how it works. And then Audible's had a few projects that writers brought into them that they needed help producing. And so we stepped in on a few of those as well. And that's helped us, get out of just comedy. Now we're doing drama. We're starting to work on nonfiction. So we're expanding our genre base too, which is exciting for us.
Yeah, and it's not. I think obviously people are entering the form and doing more, but it is complex to do kind of a multicast, scripted, with a great soundscape. I think that's it presents a bunch of new challenges, and so when you have a partner who is already really an expert at doing that, it's a lot easier to know, hey, I have this next project. You guys are going to do an amazing job on the production because it isn't, it's not that easy to get right out.
Achilles, can you speak to how, you working in an audio medium has, I guess, stretched you creatively, or as a storyteller, how you are looking at telling stories differently?
Yeah, I mean, it has made me kind of look at like how to tell stories and comedy from a different angle because my background is improv and sketch and TV, so it's like live and visual. So um, I think the audio medium like definitely helps me like scratch a different itch, which is like very exciting for me as a writer and director. And what's fun about it is that it's kind of this like old medium, but there's like a lot of room to update it and make it feel new and exciting and fun. Like, what does it look like in this kind of digital time? So a big part of the fun, I think, is like just being able to experiment, as Rachel mentioned, and being able to explore and figure out like what's the best way to tell this story, or what's the best way to do the audio version of this story and kind of deliver comedy in ways that are unique to this medium. Because I think it is, it's easy to take an idea that could have been something for TV or film, but what are ideas that really feel, at home with within the audio space? And then those are the ideas I'm starting to look for now, because this is totally like a new playground to play in. And yeah, that's really exciting, I think, as a writer.
So what kind of stories do work best?
I actually think like things that are high concept work really well, because you often have things that are, high concept kind of lends itself to like, uh, types of scenes that are like a little bit more verbal, but also backed up with more sound effects and sound design and that type of stuff. And then on the other end of that is like just stories that are very, very grounded and very, very like person to person. It's just the two of us talking to each other and having an intense moment with each other. So you kind of have a wide spectrum there, but like the ends of the spectrum, I think, are where it's kind of fun to explore and figure out what are the best stories to tell within this medium.
Right. I would say,
yeah, Mark,
too,
I was wondering what.
So with like Achilles was mentioning, high concept, big worlds we love to play in. So for example, Hit Job, that's coming out on April 22nd. It's a big action comedy. We have cute, like a sequence when big robots, attack a group of poachers. We bring down a helicopter with a t-shirt cannon. There's a big island of social media influencers that gets gobbled by quicksand. So like really big actiony sequences, but then part of the story is the relationship between Keke Palmer's character Bryn and Pete Davidson's character Gio, and it's a very grounded, like coworker, maybe romantic relationship. So we're able to like bring a lot of that, sincerity in these big worlds. And with Hot White Heist, that's coming out in June. It is we play with the tropes and what people expect out of a heist movie. So we've all seen all of the oceans, and we know what that sounds like from the score, and the intensity and the suspense of it all. So we were able to play with that in a sonic world, but also really dive into the characters and the scenes between everybody.
Yeah, I think one just additional note to that is, the human imagination is really kind of like the best, playground there. So in audio, you have that ability to go, super personal, but you can also, excite the imagination. And you can create things, in your mind that would be, really complicated maybe to do on screen or in technical. So you actually, can get people thinking about it and creating that world for themselves as well. And that can, really create a deeper connection too. And it's also kind of fun if you listen to something and one of your friends listens and you can kind of talk about, what you built as part of that world. It really does just spur your curiosity and your imagination.
Also, I feel like there would be almost a desire to go, what could we never afford to do? Like, what would be just so expensive to do visually? Like, let's get I like what you were saying, Mark, about like quicksand and like, and then it's robots and I don't know. It's like, let's set the whole thing in an air balloon, hot air balloon. Is that part of it? Just like here, the landscape will just allow us to do anything. So go for it.
Right. I think
For
that's
sure.
what Britta was the playground, the comedic playground that we're able to play with. And it's the gate's wide open for the worlds and scenes we're able to place our characters. Sorry, go ahead, Britta.
I was going to say to that point, we released an audio original with Audible called Escape from Virtual Island, which John Lutz, who's a 30 Rock SNL and Late Night with Seth Meyers writer, wrote. And Paul Rudd and Amber Ruffin and Paula Pell and Jack McBrayer starred in it. And it's a super fun, like, virtual reality series. And so Paul Rudd expressed interest in a movie version of it. And we were like, great, let's try to figure this out. John Lutz put together a treatment for it. And we looked at it and we were like, this is going to cost somebody $300 million to produce the movie version. So maybe we should think about it as an animation. So for sure, that is one of the ways that working in this medium is so fun, because you don't have the constraints that you have in working in a more visual medium.
Have any of you either gone back to old radio plays or old radio dramas and listened to those and used them as any sort of inspiration or template for, doing new stuff?
I have to say, my first job out of college was working at Golden Books, and I worked in the entertainment division there, and we owned the Lone Ranger. So we were trying to take those old radio plays and make what ultimately many years later became the Lone Ranger movie. But so I have a lot of knowledge about what that particular radio play was like, but haven't listened to any beyond that. But it's so interesting. I mean, I think that medium was so successful for such a long time, and then it was kind of dormant, I think, until Audible brought it back to life.
I would add that I listen to original cast recordings of musicals. I think musicals tell a very concise audio version of the musical. So I'm thinking about shows like Hamilton or Into the Woods, where the whole story is told audibly, and there are some gaps, a few scenes that are only on stage, but for the most part we get a beginning, middle, and end just by listening to the words. And I think that goes back to what Achilles mentioned at the beginning, was that we are really focused on the dialogue and the characters in a way that really makes us hone in on the writing, which is, I think, top priority for all of us.
And so the new shows that are coming up right now, Hot White Heist and Hit Job, you spoke to them a little bit. So as just to remind me, Hot White Heist is obviously, it's a heist, and that one stars.
Hot White Heist stars Bowen Yang from Saturday Night Live, and it is a bombastic gay farce of a script. It entails a group of LGBTQ misfits from across the spectrum who are hired by a radical group of lesbians to steal sperm from a fictional seed registry that the United States has, called the USSR, or the United States Seed Registry for short. And they've been holding sperm from the greatest minds in American history. So these lesbians want the sperm to sell to create a gay paradise island for themselves, and so they enlist this New York-based group of LGBTQ individuals. So we have our hacker and our master of disguise, who is this drag queen who can change looks in a second, really. And so it really we have a whole cast of queer actors and performers who are in it. So I think it's a show made for us and by us, and obviously welcoming all people to listen, but it's definitely a really authentic piece of queer audio.
And Jane Lynch is in it, and lots of other great names.
And so how does, I mean, that's as you described it, you just go, all right, that's not your I'm going to say that is not like someone coming in and going, I want to do a murder mystery. It's a much more involved, ultra creative script. How did that start? Did it start with someone giving you a script or a script development, or did it start with putting people in a room and letting that idea percolate?
That's a great question. We partnered with Alan Cumming's production company called Club Cumming Productions, and one of their writers, Adam Goldman, had been tinkering with this idea that he tweeted about this like maybe 3 years ago, that he would love to see a gay heist, and then it just kind of devolved from there. So once we got the log line, we ran with it and developed it from the ground up with them. And once we realized it's such a unique project from an LGBTQ perspective, I made it a point to make sure to hire, queer writers and story consultants to come on board and help punch up. And it extended through our production crew. So our assistants and sound designers and Foley artists are also across from the LGBTQ spectrum. So it's kind of like I put together our own heist to create this heist comedy. But with Hit Job, you want to talk a little bit about Hit Job Achilles and your...
Yeah, I'd love to hear the process of that.
Sure. And just like Mark assembled a team of mostly queer people, since this story is about killers, it was mostly killers working on this. So Hit Job is this high concept story created by Eric Cunningham, who's a great writer who recently wrote for the Drew Barrymore show. And it's this, takes place in a world where these multinational companies are mandated by the government to kill the world's worst people, and they hire these companies hire these basically iconic killers from pop culture. And so you have this high concept world, but then you have the characters that Keke Palmer and Pete Davidson play, who are kind of these just normal people who are just 9-to-5ers in the beginning, who are trying to just get by and earn their paycheck, and they're totally normal. They're not killers, but they get swept up in this killing contest for the company. And over the series, we kind of see them evolve from these just normal workers into killers in their own right. It was really fun to kind of live in that world. As Mark was kind of describing some of the scenes in this series, just like having fun with robots and quicksand and all these huge production set pieces that we could pull off in audio and deliver in a really funny and entertaining way.
And I think despite the fact that the series itself is so big and fun, the underlying theme of the series is how far you'll stretch your values to survive, which I think, especially now, is something that would really resonate with most people who've been faced with having to make a decision between making money to be secure and upholding your morals. So I think there's like a deep hurt underneath it all.
Now, Rachel, was that or either of these concepts something that from Audible you ordered up? Was that where you're like, you know what we need some LGBTQ, some sort of sperm vat kind of thing, or are these people coming to you, or like we need robots, we need quicksand, we need a heist, we need killers, or are these things that have come to you a different route?
Yeah, I mean, we can all use more content.
I agree.
From the LGBTQ community, particularly, comedies and different things, for sure. And I think, obviously, the projects come from Broadway Video and the concepts come from Broadway Video, but we were super excited about both of these projects because, again, there is like such a strong underlying story and narrative behind it, and the character development is so good. When you start to really connect with the characters and the storyline, and then it happens to also be really funny and entertaining on top of it. And I think these projects in particular, they're just so creative and interesting. It's not like something that you've heard before. It is something that is so different and unique. And, we always look for stuff that's, what is just something that no one has experienced before, but really, really needs to experience. And that's what these felt like. And I've had an opportunity to dive into Hit Job and was not disappointed. It is always a delightful story, a delightful storyline between different characters, and it brings, all kinds of those emotions, but it's also hysterical, and such a great way to kind of, connect to the world outside of your home and laugh again. And so, I think both of these projects really exemplified doing something just so creative and different and special. And then obviously we know our partners at Broadway Video are going to do a great job executing on those stories.
And we have to give a quick shout out to Keke Palmer and Pete Davidson, who are the stars of this one and have been like the most delightful human beings to work with. They're so great. Not just talented, but like lovely and down for anything, which is rare and fantastic.
Yeah, and they very much crushed the performance element of it. They're both so great.
Yeah, I think a big part of that was for most of the recording of that show, we had them there together, which is kind of a rare thing for voice recording. Usually actors are there by themselves, and then you have, somebody who is not acting off them, but just reading off the opposite lines. But we had them there, pretty much, I think, the entire time together, which was amazing.
And what were the writers' rooms like for these shows? Was it things being passed along through email, or was it collaborative?
For Hit Job, we got the green light 2 years ago. I think
Wow.
we wrote it summer of 2018, 2019. And
I think it
so
would have been 2019. Yeah.
And so Achilles was in that first room, so we were able to do that one in person. But when we got to the punch up stage, summer, it was we assigned scripts to different writers to kind of punch up and add jokes as we saw fit. And Hot White Heist has been virtual the whole time. And Achilles has been a few of the rooms if you want to talk about the Zoom room writing process.
Yeah, I mean the rooms are always a little bit like the run always a little bit different. Obviously, the one with Hit Job, it was in person, which was great. So it felt very much like your kind of normal writers' room experience with the added twist of now we're thinking in terms of how can we deliver the best version of this through audio, and then for these Zoom rooms, they are a little bit trickier. I think part of it is like we still get a lot of the work done, but part of the fun of being in person writers' rooms is the time wasting that goes on in between, like working and telling jokes and riffing, and it's like, oh, did you guys see this YouTube video? And then now we're doing that for the next 30 minutes. So there's kind of none of that now in the Zoom room. But they're still kind of operating the same way in that you would in like a TV writing room.
And for Hit Job, an amazing woman, female writer named Lauren Gerganis, ran the writer's room and was really instrumental in like putting the overall series together. And she grew up in the 30 Rock and Kimmy Schmidt writer's room and is now on Tina Fey and Robert Carlock's new show. But anyway, she ran it like she had been taught by Robert and Tina. So I think that was probably a fun experience for all the writers in the writers' room, just to get a part of, those old, amazing series writers.
And you said Hit Job is we can all listen to that April 22nd. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Hot White Heist?
June 17th.
June?
Yeah, when we got the green light, as I was putting together our production schedule, I knew I wanted to back it into a Pride launch at some point, and so 2021 Pride lined up really nicely, so it'll be tied around that.
Fantastic. Well, I have to thank you so much. I mean, I am so excited that there's going to be such unbelievably creative and innovative audio entertainment coming out for all of us to be inspired by very soon. Thank you so much, Rachel, Mark, Achilles, Britta. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thanks again to On Air Festival. I think we learned how to make some comedy magic in this audio space. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.